All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back live at Drew's house. Another edition. Happy Thanksgiving. Hope you're all having a good week out there. Sarah is here. Hello, Sarah.
Hi, Drew.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Happy Thanksgiving. Can you believe it's here already?
I can't believe it. The year's gone by quick.
It has been a fast year, a crazy year.
Well, yeah, the whole year hasn't gone by too quick. But
yes. It's been like long as can be, but also like time is kind of still flying by. It's very strange.
Yeah. I agree.
Would do whatever you do here. Thanksgiving coming up. I know this is going to be kind of weird for a lot of families. Our families are kind of having discussions on what to do. It seems like social distancing is the play no matter what. Kind of weird for a lot of families. Hard on a lot of families, I know, but it's weird.
Yeah, it is weird. Trying to figure out the weather. Can we do it outside?
Yeah.
What are some different alternatives that we can do for Thanksgiving so we can at least see each other, even from a distance?
Exactly. And hopefully not all through Zoom, but I know it's hard. People have older family members they're trying to keep safe. And, you know, I had a few guests on here the other day who were just talking about how it's hard to, you know, my grandmother, we're trying to keep away because she's in that tough area. She has some health issues and they don't want to take any chances. So it's very hard. And I know every family all around the country is dealing with that. So be safe. Enjoy your food, though. I know you're a big Thanksgiving. What's your favorite Thanksgiving dish, would you say?
Sweet potato pie. My aunt makes the best sweet potato pie. That's my favorite.
Aunt Trixie gets the shout out there. Is that
yes.
who that is? Very nice. All right. I think mine is, I don't know. I kind of go all over the place.
Yeah.
What is mine?
I feel like you like the appetizers more and the dessert, maybe.
I'm so not customary. I like Sarah makes a buffalo chicken dip that I really like.
I used to make it a lot.
I know that's not on your traditional Thanksgiving menu, I know.
No.
You know who we have on the show today?
I do not.
I didn't tell you. I was a surprise. It is going to be Mike Lynch, who's making a second return on the show. And Mike is he's the old legendary sportscaster from WCVB Channel 5. And he's the guy that puts in all the work on the Thanksgiving football games. He's always at a field every Thanksgiving. And he always comes back later in the day. All sorts of work, by the way. Can you believe how, he doesn't have a huge staff to do this. But they end up putting all the highlights of the games on late in the Thanksgiving day when it's dark and you're all tired on tryptophan. They recap the games and he goes through like every game. And it's been quite a tradition for many decades. And, well, obviously that's not going to happen this year because there's going to be no football games. That's going to be weird.
Right, there's none.
None.
Right, no high school football
Yeah, football's the sport that's not being played. So
do they do professional? Well, he wouldn't.
Yes,
professional, but
there is going to be professional football. Yeah, so some of the high school kids can at least watch some football. But that's a Massachusetts tradition: high school football, morning games. In Danvers, it was always a morning game. And we live near the stadium. It's going to be weird not hearing the crowd and the band, and it's just strange not having football on Thanksgiving morning.
That's a weird time. That is a big job to do on Thanksgiving Day.
What Mike used to do?
Yeah.
Oh man, he's been. I know he retired as the nightly sportscaster, but he was planning on continuing that. At least I think that was the case. I'll double check and ask him to make sure. But I know this is like his thing. He loves it, and it's just been Thanksgiving tradition for him too. You make different traditions with your families, and that was one for Mike. Did a great job with it all those years. So let's bring him in. I wanted to make sure I brought Sarah in to say Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. All right, to Mike Lynch we go. All right, welcome back live at Drew's house. Very excited to bring back in a second return on the show for the great Mike Lynch, WCVB legend, sportscaster. Mike, how you doing, sir? Happy Thanksgiving. What a crazy year.
It sure is, Drew. I just can't even, every day I wake up and I'm afraid to take the covers off because the news just gets worse every single day. The only encouraging thing we have is the prospect of a vaccine, but you know, Thanksgiving's coming up and it's going to be altered on so many different fronts, from the football front, from the traveling front, from who's at the table, who's not at the table. And I guess we all have to thank for what we have and look forward to the future.
Let's start there because everybody has made you part of their Thanksgiving. Usually when the tryptophan sits in, we sit back and watch you on those late Thanksgiving nights. Recap all the high school games. Obviously, that's one of the sports that did not get the green light to play. No football here. What is this going to be like with no game for you to attend this year?
I cannot honestly remember the last time I did not work on Thanksgiving. And I can't remember the last time I sat down at a Thanksgiving Day dinner table at a normal hour with my family. And I think I have to go back to when I was in college, probably sometime between 72 and 76. A couple of those times I was doing some high school football on the radio up in Lynn. But since then, I've been at Channel 5 and have loved doing it every Thanksgiving. Grab a turkey sandwich. Like, for instance, I was in Newburyport 5 years ago. Drive home, grab a quick turkey sandwich, hop in the shower, and then bang in the station at 3 to get everything done. So I don't really know what I'm going to do. I hear all my family members, like, arguing about who's going to get the green beans and the squash. And I said, I could care less. I said, I'm just going to be sitting there. But I'm going to be very sad come Thanksgiving that I'm not at some game and I'm not sitting in that chair with all the great memorabilia behind me in the station and bringing all the excitement and the color and the pageantry of Thanksgiving and sharing with everybody in our viewing audience.
I know we talked about this a little bit before when you were on, a year and a half ago or whenever that was, but tell us a little bit about that day. Tell the dogs say hello. That's what happens life at home.
Yeah, sure.
The Newburyport game, for instance. So what is that day for you? You go to the game in the early morning and then how do you get back and get a show in place for, the evening?
Well, we have a great, it's the ultimate in teamwork. We decide which games we're going to about a week in advance. And we try to find a game, since the Thanksgiving games don't mean anything for championships anymore, we try to find a great story. So, for instance, Ed Harding will go to one story, Bob Halloran will go to do another story, and I will go to pick a particular story. Now, in 2015, I picked Newburyport because they were dedicating the field to Jim Stalin, a longtime coach, who I played against, and I really had great admiration for him. So I thought that would be a pretty cool thing to do. So told my photographer, who lives in North Attleboro, he said, "Where are we going?" I said, "Newburyport." He said, "Oh, what a ride it is for me." So I leave my house about 8, get up there a little bit early. I probably got there about 9 o'clock. I actually saw Jim Stalin. I interviewed him. I was out there. We had the camera out there when they dedicated the game to him. So that was going to be the focus of the story. Well, now the game goes into overtime. So now we got a second part of the story. And Amesbury scored first, and then Newburyport had the ball, and then they scored, and they went for the 2 points, and they won it, so there was bedlam on the field. Now they grab everybody together. Ed Gaudiano is the coach. He gets everyone in a circle around him, and he announces his retirement. Mm-hmm. So I went up there to do the thing on Jim Stalin. We got a great double overtime game, won on a 2-point, my final play of the game where the place went crazy. We've got a full house there because Newburyport always turns out great. And now we get Ed Gaudiano, longtime coach, announcing his retirement. And I got to fit that all into a 2-minute report. So I interview some of the players. I interview Ed Gaudiano. And then I go up into the photographer's car and I write a script. I'll write a little script right here and I'll record it. And we'll edit it on his laptop. And he will send it into the station, into our server. I get in my car, drive to Winchester where I live, run in, and my family's having dinner here, but they made me a turkey sandwich. I said hi to everybody, hop in the shower in the station, and now we begin the long process of collecting all the tapes of the other games. It's gotten a lot easier now because people can just send some highlights in. They can we can get them off of Twitter, we can get them off YouTube. But in years past, we actually had to have it. There was a physical tape. And so we would call cable companies, and they would leave the tape at the police department because that was the only business that was open on Thanksgiving Day. And we'd have a team of interns and couriers driving around all around Eastern Mass, picking up tapes, bringing them back. But some of them didn't have rosters. So you put the tape in, and number 15 for, Cohasset scores a touchdown, and, number 23, intercepts a pass and goes for a touchdown. We don't know who he is. So now we're calling the fire station and the police station, and we're saying, who's up 23? 23 is Mike Lynch. No, 23 is Timmy Davis. No, it's Lynch. So you don't know who you're going to believe. So invariably, you might get 1 or 2 names wrong, but not without a great deal of effort. But and I want to commend your outfit at Newburyport last year. We were trying to get video of the game because they had dedicated their season to one of the all-time greats, a guy by the name of Kevin Sullivan. He wore number 22, and one of the traditions was when they came out for the coin toss, they brought out the number 22 jersey. And you people were great. You got us that video of the coin toss. And then the captain who had it ran over to the bench and he draped the 22 over the bench. And then as the game went on, Newburyport came from behind with a couple of great touchdowns. And I was saying, and said, oh, they're doing this in the memory of Kevin Sullivan, one of the great Clippers of all time. And boy, Kevin would be smiling down right now. And he played, this game's being played on Stayland Field, who was the coach of Kevin Sullivan. And I got a nice letter from his wife later on, nice email. I got a nice one from several family members, one of his son's friends who lives in Washington, D.C., sent me a thank you. So, the little effort that your people made at your station to get that video for us impacted so many people. And that's the one thing that I think is lasting about Thanksgiving with all the effort. We sometimes say, boy, it's a long day. It's 16 hours. Most people are sitting home. Is that we feel really good when midnight comes. We rerun the show at 11:35. And we feel really, really good that we've done something collectively as a team. And we put smiles on a lot of people's faces in a lot of towns. Because remember, this is probably the last game that many of these kids are going to be playing. And we also try to fit every timeout, every commercial break, we try to feature the band, the marching band from some particular school, because it's a big day for them, and a big day for the cheerleaders, and a big day for the concession stands, and the moms and the dads and the boosters clubs. It's the one day, and it's probably the last level of athletics where everybody is included in a participant. You don't have to be wearing a football helmet and shoulder pads to feel part of Thanksgiving Day. Even if you're an alum and you go back to see your school, you feel part of it. You get a little goosebumps, and you get to see old friends, and you stand around and you watch the game. And for one day, everybody's 17 or 18 years old once again.
And you kind of just hit on it. The world is smaller with Zoom, with the technology and all that. But when it comes down to it, it really is those local stories. That's what it's all about, right? I mean, that's what we do it for.
Yeah, absolutely. And and again, I know a lot of people in Newburyport are going to be watching this, and the feedback I got from that, and and I was up there, at halftime when I was in high school. Swampscott and Newburyport were both in the Northeastern Conference, and so I played in that stadium a number of times, and played on the baseball field and then the basketball court inside the high school. And a lot of people that I competed against came down at halftime. The great Kenny Ladd, who played at Boston College, came down and said hi. And everyone was laughing about the window I broke on the house on the hill, which was 50 years ago last Saturday. And it was just some great memories. And I'm 67 years old right now, but I tell you what, Thanksgiving Day, I am 16 all over again from the moment that I go to bed on Wednesday night until the moment I hit my pillow, at midnight on Thursday.
Absolutely. And actually, a good time, since you led me down that road, I should give a big, I don't do this enough, Tyler Neufeld, Caleb Noble, Sarah Hayden,
Yes.
People that are kind of literally working extra hard to get this show on. Studio is closed back in Newburyport. I'm doing all these shows from my kitchen, and I have the easy part. They have the hard part of trying to socially distance and get in there and do the work of many people. Happy Thanksgiving to you guys, and thank you so much for keeping the lights on here as we go. And
last year we wouldn't have gotten that tape if they didn't go the extra effort, because the game, I think, it was played in Newburyport, but somebody went back to the studio, stayed and edited those things together for us that made the Sullivan family's Thanksgiving. It was a sad Thanksgiving for them because it was the first time without their dad, one of the great guys of all time, and it made their day to see their jersey being held, his jersey being held, and to hear me talk about him. So the effort that your crew put in back there, I'm very appreciative to them. I know I thanked them a year ago, but thanks again. You made a family's Thanksgiving special. One that was going to be sad, you made it very, very special, and thank you.
Does not surprise me. It's a good team. I think a lot of people who maybe didn't catch the show last time you were on are wondering a little bit more about this field goal, about this broken window. It was a field goal or extra point. I can't remember. Tell the story.
Here it was with an extra point. I was a quarterback, and we had kicked a couple extra points. That it's the goalpost at the far end of World War Memorial Stadium, not the one down by the concession stand. And on the hill, there are two houses. Now, back in 1970, they were white, but now one of them is pink and one of them is yellow. So I threw a touchdown pass to Charlie Cardillo, and We got in the huddle, and I kicked with a square toe, which I actually still have right here. This is hard to believe. There it is right there, a square toe, straight on. And it still has a little bit of dirt in the bottom of it because I wore it in college too after high school. I wore it for about 8 years. And so in the huddle, up in the hill, there was a picture window, and there was a woman who watches the game from her picture window. And so in the huddle, I got egged on by a bunch of the guys. They said, Lynchy, go for the window. Go for the window. You can reach the window. I said, that's about 50 yards in the house, and the window's on the second floor. So I gave in to all their egging on, and I just hit the sweet spot. And that ball is just carrying and carrying and carrying. And I can see the woman get up. She runs away from the window, smash right through the window, and you could hear it all over the stadium. And then the window frame fell out from the first floor all the way down to the lawn, the second floor. And the place went crazy. I felt so bad about it. And on the ride home, everyone's cheering and yelling and everything. That I got home, I got a pen and a piece of paper and a stamp, and I wrote a letter of apology to the football coach, Jim Stalin, who went over to that house on Monday and offered to pay for the window, and I offered to pay for it myself. And so now when I came back in 2015, I ran into two guys named Charlie Cullen and a guy, Bino Arabino. And they were the first two guys I saw. And they were about 5 years older than I am. And they said, look down the other end. Look what we have down there, the other end. And I saw these two posts with this big net there. And he said, they're called the Mike Lynch nets. He says, we put them up after you broke the window on November 14th, 1970. So it was 50 years ago. And so I put a picture of it on Twitter and Facebook. And you can't believe all the people. One kid who lives in Washington, D.C. said, yeah, he said, we moved into that house after we bought it, about 10 years later, and that was still the legend. The woman says, well, you're the guy on television, Mike Lynch. Well, he kicked the football right through the window, the big picture window out back overlooking the field. And, it was a moment. I guess I'm not really, it's kind of humorous. I mean, yeah. I didn't do it on purpose, but I did do it on purpose. I didn't throw a rock through it. I just kicked an extra point. And I just can't believe it just kept sailing and sailing for some reason. And, if I could hit my 9-iron and pitching wedges accurate like that, I might be a better golfer.
No, absolutely. That's great. Again, we're joined here by Mike Lynch. A very unique Thanksgiving this year where none of us will be at a football field. It feels a little bit hollow in that regard. What do you spoke a little bit about what that means for you personally. Your family is kind of, what do we do with you? But how about the kids? Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about them because, a lot of people are like, kids, they'll be fine. They're young. But this is a big moment in their lives. They worked very hard for this. I remember my senior year. It would kill me if so many of these things were taken away from me. Some of my best memories. Just speak to that. You know how important it is for the high school senior.
I can't even imagine not having a Thanksgiving Day football game. And the night before, the cheerleaders came by all the seniors' houses, and they just did a little quick cheer and beat the horn and went by. And you get goosebumps. It was almost like Christmas Eve, the night before Thanksgiving, if you're a player. And, you wake up, you don't sleep well, you wake up early in the morning, because normally you play either at night or at 1:30 in the afternoon. You're playing at 10 in the morning, and, your mom has a little breakfast out for you, but you can barely eat because you get butterflies going in your stomach. And you get down there, and if the game's on the road, the bus trip is very silent because it's going to be your last bus trip with these guys that you've been with for 4 years and some longer. I think of the band. The band plays, every game, but this is the biggest crowd the band is ever going to have in front of them. And they're going to perform in front of their parents, their friends, their relatives, and the student body that might not have seen them for the first 9 games of the season. Same thing with the cheerleaders. I also think of the athletic directors. My dad was the coach in Swampscott when I played. He wound up being an athletic director at Danvers High School for 15 years. The money that he took in from ticket sales on Thanksgiving Day would fund all his winter sports. Would pay for buses for 9th grade, JV, boys and girls games. Would pay for officials for basketball, for ice hockey, and all those ancillary costs were taken care of by the ticket sales for one day. All of that is gone now, and it'll never ever replace it. You can't say, well, wait till next year. Well, that's okay if you're, 40, 45 years old, but when you're 17 or 18, there is no next year. You can't get it back. I feel really, really badly. I don't even know what I can say to console any of these young men and young women that that we're going to be part of this big day. We thought about doing a show showing the best of and pulling out some tapes from years past of some games, but it became such a daunting task that because everything was on tape and it had to be digitized and then it had to be conforted down to fit on a TV screen. And so I was willing to do that, to sit there and, get some sweatshirts and change them. But, we're just going to have to say, we're sorry, this is unprecedented. And, I suppose Thanksgivings were interrupted during the war. And, we're in the middle of a war right now with an invisible disease. And right now the disease is winning. And we want to make sure that, we win this war, and that Thanksgiving or winter sports, spring sports, state tournaments, and all those great experiences that high school students are entitled to are never taken away from them again.
Absolutely. Again, Mike Lynch joining us. You just mentioned your father, who happened to become the AD in the town I'm from, Danvers, and coming to you from right now. Still a great name. You won't hear a bad word said about him in this town. I know you know that, but he was very well respected. And I also should say one of my old teachers was the old football coach in Danvers, passed away this year, Coach Sullivan. John Sullivan brought a championship here to a program that was struggling and completely turned it around. I know a lot of my guys miss him very much. That happened to be when I was in high school when they hit their peak. And so I know a lot of them I remember in Coach Sullivan this Thanksgiving. So I know you got to meet him. That must be a really special part for you, Mike, is going down on the sidelines. And like you said, you mentioned the Newburyport story, but I know you got a million of them, of people who just come up to you and say thank you.
They're just so. Rocky Nelson, great coach at Woburn High School. His last game, we were shooting. They played Winchester. They played each other over 100 years, and it's Rocky had announced before the season, this is my final year. So we're down there, and I'm on the sidelines with him, and I didn't say anything to him because he was up 22-15. Winchester scored 22-21, and Winchester goes for 2 in the win. They win, Rocky's last game is spoiled. And all of a sudden they go for 2 and they bat down the pass and Rocky's got the win. And so I get the microphone and the game's not over. There's about 8 seconds still to go. And I said, Rocky, how's it feel? He goes, listen, he says, don't count the chickens yet. We still got a kickoff. We could fumble it and they could pick it up. So we waited. And then when when the clock read 0-0-0, he just went over and shook the Winchester coach's hand, and all his players and all his ex-players were waiting for him in the end zone, and they just embraced him in a group huddle. And I have it on my phone. Our photographer has a great shot of it, tears running down his eyes. How many lives he influenced, and to this day, and we all know, you know the impact that Coach Sullivan had on you. It doesn't end, when you get your diploma and walk out the door in high school. It stays with you. If they've been good mentors and good coaches and good leaders, it stays with you the rest of their life. And all the people that played for Rocky Nelson and Woburn feel that way about him. Unfortunately, he died about a year and a half later. And he's got countless thousands of people whose lives he affected in Woburn. And, I can go back over the years and give you hundreds of stories like that all around Eastern Mass. And that's what we try to capture. The football part's exciting, but it's the human interest stories. Somebody who had a parent who may have passed away, and I don't know how they get themselves up and go to practice every day. North Andover a couple of years ago, they were involved with the gas explosions. Remember that? Mm. And many of the kids on that team did not have heat or hot water. Many of them would go over their friend's house and shower and shave, sleep because they wanted some heat. And they got up and they played a Thanksgiving Day football game, which they won, and they went on and won a Super Bowl. And, every night they came home, they didn't have any light to do any of their homework. They would have to go to a friend's house. Same thing happened with many of the other good people in the city of Lawrence. And they got up and they made it happen. Young people are really resilient, and I think they really surprise us a lot. They're probably a little bit better overcoming adversity than we are. And so yeah, my brain is just full of memories and good feelings, and it's one of the most exciting days. It's my Christmas, basically. It's my Christmas.
I hear you. It's so funny you say that because I mentioned that on the last show I had. I had a group of high schoolers on here who many of them did get to play a fall season in their respective sports, but it was different. It was rule changes, it was masks and all this stuff. But when I tell you I've heard just so little complaining for the kids that were able to go out there and play, all we cared about was just getting out there and just getting a shot. Just tell us what the rules are and we'll try to make it work. And the kids are resilient.
They are, and they're good about it. They handle it very well. And I don't know if I'd handle it very well. I mean, I wasn't a good loser when I was in high school. You know, I just wasn't. I hated to lose. You know, I would just walk around the block. My father said, "Go walk around the block 10 times." You know, I'm tired of you moping around the house and, you know, complaining about everything. So this is, you know, all I can say is think about some of the great Thanksgivings you've had in the past. Think about a great game you were at. Think about a great game you might have played in, a game you watched. Think about a special Thanksgiving when you had a grandparent that was there that might not be there right now. Think about a good thought about him or her, or an aunt or an uncle, or a friend, and you know, just give thanks that you knew that person and that person was in your life, and you know, for all the for all the good things that have happened in your life.
Ready for the impossible question? I need to know, what is the best Thanksgiving football game you ever attended?
I played in some which I thought were really good. The best one I ever attended, you know, the Newburyport one was pretty good in 2015 because so many things happened that were all good things. I went to a Winchester Woburn game one day, and there was a great guy who had adopted a Korean son who was a quarterback, and he scored on the last play of the game, and he came off, and this guy was a public works employee, and he just grabbed his and he said, "My son, my son, my son," and our cameraman was right there to capture it, and you know, that struck a chord in my heart. I didn't go to one, but I watched one a couple of years ago when Lynn English scored a touchdown with 8 seconds to go up 22-21 on Lynn Classical, and the English fans stormed the field. And they told everyone to clear the field. English kicked off, and Classical did one of those razzle-dazzles, you know, like the old Stanford-Cal game. They just kept lateraling and pitching it back and forth, and this guy wound up running about 96 yards for a touchdown. And it was like the reversal of fortune. Classical wound up winning the game by 5 points, 28-21 or 22, I think it was. And that was one of the big thrills. We ran that on one of the games. I had a great thrill. And my 3 years in high school, they didn't have Super Bowls then, so they sort of declared if the team was a Class B state champion or not, and we were every year. My junior year, we hadn't lost a game in 3 years, and we were losing to Marblehead 14-12 with about 40 seconds to go. And I kicked the field goal to beat Marblehead 15-14 to give us the Class B championship and extend our winning streak to 27 games. And my dad was the assistant coach, the backfield coach that time. And I remember the game was at Marblehead, and we were delirious after the game, and we rode the bus home. And then we went into the locker room to change to go home and have Thanksgiving. And my dad was waiting at the door, and he said, "I'm really proud of you, son." And he wasn't I could see little tears in his eyes, you know, and I never saw my father cry. And he wasn't he just, you know, if he did something well, he was supposed to do it well, you know, and that was something I'll never forget. That was Thanksgiving Day, 1969, 51 years ago, with my dad. He just waited for me to get off the bus because the coaches sit up front, they get off first, and I probably was sitting at the back of the bus horsing around with a bunch of people.
Oh, what a great story. And, so many traditions that have been made over the years. I think of what I used to do. I used to go over to my buddy's house, and his mother was great enough to hold a pregame breakfast to go watch the older kids play on Thanksgiving. And, then I ended up sitting with my grandfather, who had no real family attachment to the game at that time, but he would never miss a game, and he would sit in the same seat with his 3 older guy buddies. And I mean, it's just so many different traditions that are just taken away this year. And I think that is the tough part. It's so much more than just a football game.
It's a total community involvement. I mean, you could shut down every business in any town in Massachusetts on Thanksgiving Day because most of the people are either at the game or they're home preparing the turkey. You know, my grandmother used to always prepare the turkey. She would stay in our house. My grandfather would come to the Swampscott Marblehead game. My mother would go. My mother would get so nervous that she would go to underneath the stands if the score got close, and she would just, with her rosary beads, and she would just ask somebody, who won? Who won? Did they make the touchdown? Yeah, okay, Joanne, come on up now. It's safe to come up. We've got a comfortable lead. But, you go to every other of these cities and towns, and, I'll see some people. I said, how many years you been coming here? I'll have a conversation with someone. The guy says, I've been coming here since 1949, and I always stand right here in the same spot and with my same buddies. And sadly, our group of 12 is now down to about 7 because we've lost a few. But that's the same thing you're talking about with your grandfather, and it's and it's the one game you remember. And even if, no matter if you're a player or a cheerleader or in the band or when you're in school, you remember that Thanksgiving Day game and how much fun it is. And then, it's over. And then, you go through the weekend and the winter sports start on Monday. So it's a great weekend. I know there's an old saying, the turkey always tastes better when you win, but it does. It does taste better when your team wins, when your town wins.
And we used to say when we would see you, it happened at least once, probably twice when I was actually in high school. When you were at the game, you knew it was important.
If Lynch there, it's going to be a big game, right?
It's always a good sense of pride. All right, we are the game of the day. Very good.
Well, but what I always try to do is split. I lived in Winchester, so I would take anything north. Bob Halloran lives in Milton. I try to get everyone geographically close to their house, except my poor cameraman Steve, who I made drive to Newburyport from North Attleboro that day. But he doesn't mind because he knows that, it's going to be a good story or a good game. And like that day in Newburyport, I mean, who knew? And then there's a trophy they hand out between Newburyport and Amesbury. And this courageous, and both teams come out, and the trophy is about 4 feet high. And the poor guy that was handing out the trophy was in the early stages of ALS with Lou Gehrig's disease. And he had trouble getting the words out, but you could tell. And he says, and the so-and-so trophy goes to Newburyport. And, tears coming down players' faces. Another great tradition that you see at these games. And that happened to be, so there were 4 great things that happened at that Newburyport-Amesbury game when I was there that day. So I may have to go back there someday because I had good memories playing there. I just hope that the police department doesn't have, like a warrant for my destruction of private property and I get taken out in shackles.
Football statute of limitations on that thing. I think.
50 years, we're good.
One last, I remember, I think people are always curious too when they watch that set, and we should give a thumbs up to your whole team that goes. I know that's not an easy show to put together. I mean, you just mentioned your cameraman. What unbelievable work. People put in perspective that it's Thanksgiving. I mean, unbelievable job. And where do you get all the jerseys and all the memorabilia?
Well, we have a great director. Her name is Dorothy Will. Her son played football for Walpole. Her daughter was a field hockey player and a swimmer for Walpole High School. And she puts an email out right around November 1st every year. Okay, it's that time of year. Bring all your sports paraphernalia and just leave it in Lynchy's office. And so she goes out and she decorates the whole thing. And she always has a camera set up there. So she's always looking in the camera lens to see, how it looked. I mean, you can hang like this jersey I got behind me right here. She probably would have it repositioned somewhere. She'd have the lighting. So we'll get everything from a helmet, a jersey, a hoodie, pom-poms, a megaphone, a baseball hat, a pennant, and she just decorates the whole thing. And, it takes her about a week to do it. A couple days before Thanksgiving, she has me sit in the chair. And she goes in the control room. She says, all right, Lynch, just move that chair a little bit to your right. Okay, and then they mark some tape on the floor. They all put markings down there where it's going to be, so it won't be moved. The reason this whole thing started was because I said, geez, I'd love to be able to do the Thanksgiving Day show from my living room, my family room. So she said, well, why don't we build a set that looks like you're sitting at home? So I brought in I used to bring the school pictures of my 3 daughters. And, as they got older, excuse me, a little tickle in my throat. I find the last ones I have there are their high school graduation pictures. And I'd always get a call at 8 o'clock. Hey, Dad, how come Wally was up front, and Katie and I in the back? Okay, I'll switch it up every commercial, you know. And, hey, how come Kelly's in the front now? How come I'm not in the back? And then we'd have a little piece of pie there. They have a bowl of popcorn. And if I had popcorn, I'd be doing what I'm doing now. A kernel would find its way down my throat somehow, and I wouldn't be able to. So that's how the whole thing comes together. Dorothy Will does the whole thing, and then I solicit sweatshirts, and I put emails out. I go on the air. I said, tell me why I should wear your school's hoodie. And I don't want to hear it's because, you know, Drew Moholland, they ran for four touchdowns last week against Salem. I want to hear because, you know, we've got an unbelievable school band, and they just won the Massachusetts championship. I say, good, okay, that's one of them. We have a teacher who's retiring after 55 years, and everyone loves her. Good, Bridgewater Raynham, send it in. We have someone that was a principal of our school, and she's battling breast cancer right now. Great, bring it in, and I will tell the story about all of them. And then I tell the photographers, you know, at halftime, shoot 5 minutes of the marching band. So as we go to every commercial break, we say, we'll be back with more, but first, let's hear from the Amesbury High School marching band, and we might play 20 seconds of them. So it's all about everybody. It's not about Mr. Touchdown. It's about everybody. Like from your grandfather, you know, and his buddies, right down to the little Pop Warner kids that are on the sidelines hoping someday that they might be part of this great day.
That's great stuff. It's going to be quite a miss not having Thanksgiving morning football this year. And it is, people don't realize how much it's a Massachusetts tradition. It's not like this all over the country. This is a thing.
No, it's not. A lot of states will start their playoffs before Thanksgiving, which we have done too, but that's another issue. But it's pretty much, it's here. And I think Connecticut might do it. I'm not sure. But when people come in, like we have reporters that we hire from other parts of the country, and they come in, they go, high school Thanksgiving? Football on Thanksgiving? What's this all about? And then, you know, they might live like in Holliston, and they get down to the Holliston-Westwood game, and they said, wow, this is great. He said, the place was packed.
Crazy. Two quick side deals I'd be remiss not to ask you about. Patriots, they all done?
Well, right now, 4-6. That's pretty tough. They're going to have some teams really go in the tank. I think they're done. They didn't run the football this week against the Houston Texans, who are horrible against the run. Yeah, I think they're done. And now this is so the great debate for the rest of the year is going to be, was it Belichick or was it Brady? And, you know, every week the answer is different. So, you know, and like last week it was Belichick because of what a great game plan he put together against Baltimore. This week, it's probably going to be Brady. So that's the debate that's going to go on if we don't have a playoff game to look forward to.
Absolutely. And I want to ask you about this particular person, too. I'm not even sure. We didn't talk about this off the air or anything. I'm not sure how many conversations you've had, but I just know that you know everybody in the area. Travis Roy was a player who I was young. He was older than me, not by much, but it was really the first kind of thing of – I remember like tragedy in my life. I remember watching it and having to ask my dad, what happened? Like he'll never play again. And I had to ask those tough questions. And then of course that tragedy became something so enormous and so great. And of course we lost him, like we've lost so many people this year, but Travis Roy, just your memory of him.
Well, I remember the night it happened. It was the first game of the year of BU. They did playing North Dakota State over at BU. And he just jumped off the bench onto the ice. It was his shift. He went into the corner, and somebody hit him from behind, and he hit his face against the boards, and he was limp on the ground. 11 seconds. That was his entire BU career. He was a freshman. 11 seconds. And he told his dad, by the way, Lee, went to Swampscott High School and was a great hockey player in Vermont. And he told his dad as they were taking him off on the stretcher, he said, well, Dad, at least I made it. You know, like he made it to major college hockey. We all know what Travis did. He raised over $9 million for his foundation. He graduated from BU. He was paralyzed from the chest down. He could talk. He was a great motivational speaker. He was my hero and a lot of other heroes. And I got word a couple of weeks ago that he had passed away, and I called Jackie Parker, his coach, and I said, is it true, Jackie? He said, it is, Mike. He said, he called me 2 days ago, and he said, I've been in and out of the hospital for the last couple of weeks. He had bladder cancer. He says, I'm going to go up to Vermont. I don't want to be a burden on my family. And Jackie said, I took that as meaning he wants to go up there to die. And that's what happened. He went up there. He went into the UVM hospital for one little treatment, went back to their house in Vermont. His mom and dad made it up there. His sister made it up there, and he died. But think about this, though. Two people who raised more money than anybody I can remember, and who had an impact, more of an impact than anybody I remember, spent their last days in wheelchairs. Pete Frates and Travis Roy, and the impact they had on so many people. You know, it's hard to believe, you know, but that all the rest of us have all our faculties and everything, and what they have been able to do, rather than just sitting and feeling sorry for themselves and playing the why me game. Neither one of those two leaders and heroes did that at all, and that was so. Yep, that was a big loss, big loss. Courageous guy.
The why me would have been completely understandable with such horrible events, and then to do so much good and change the world, really, both of those guys, just unbelievable. What are you going to do Thanksgiving night? My last question to you will be, is everybody in the family going to be comfortable having you around? Are you going to have to go isolate? What's the deal with you here personally?
Well, I told everyone I was going to go to a high school football field at 10 o'clock and just sit there for 2 hours. And they said, good, get out of the house. COVID, I think, has sort of altered the where everyone's going and who is going to be there, like every other family. So I think it might just be just right here at my house. May go to my daughter's house, but I don't know how she feels about the whole COVID thing as well. So with everything surging, so I'm going to give thanks for everything I have. All the great Thanksgivings that I've had in the past. I'm going to think about, my grandparents, who were a big part of my Thanksgiving when I first started. I'm going to think about my dad having me be a water boy from the time I was like 7 years old. I was at every Swampscott Marblehead game, lugging a bucket of water and just going into the huddle and looking at these giants. Oh my God, how big these people are in the huddle, and I could never be this tall someday. And I'm gonna when I'm slicing into my turkey and throwing some stuffing into my mouth, I'm gonna say how lucky I was to be part of so many Thanksgiving Day games as a water boy, as a player, as a spectator, and as a broadcaster.
Favorite Thanksgiving dish? What is it?
I got to go with the stuffing, cranberry sauce, and little green bean casserole. That's in addition to the turkey.
All right. Very good. Very good. And I'm going to let you have the last word for the whole show here and take us into Thanksgiving. The one word of advice. You worked in a very tough industry, very competitive. What is your word of advice for the kids that are not able to take the football field on this Thanksgiving, that are feeling that adversity, that are a little bit down? This is a tough week for them. What's your word of advice, life advice for these kids?
Well, I would say patience, which is very hard. It's not one of my great virtues. I'm not a very patient guy. Be patient. As my dad would always say, this too shall pass, and it will. And, if this is the worst thing that ever happened to you in your life, as you get down the road of life, you might consider yourself a pretty lucky person.
Well said. Mike Lynch, I wish you and the family all the best on this Thanksgiving. Continue to health. That's, of course, the biggest thing in 2020. I hope everybody's doing all right on your side, and have a good Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving.
All right, Drew, to all the people out there watching, all my friends up in Newburyport, thank you very much, and all the people around Eastern Massachusetts. Happy Thanksgiving, and next year, I promise you, I'm going to be sitting in that chair, and we're going to have Thanksgiving football, and we're going to be back to the way it used to be. I promise. Thanks for having me on. It's really great. Anytime, give me a jingle. I'm happy to be part of it.
Mike Lynch, you're the best. Thank you, sir.
All right, now. All
right, there you go. Mike Lynch, I told him he'd have the last word. There's the last word. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. It's been a crazy ride. This has been a crazy week. Every week feels crazy. And here we are again. So hopefully we get out of this soon. But I thought that was a great. What is Thanksgiving without Mike Lynch? When you're talking about high school football and all that, he's been such a part of so many families' lives. I thought it would be fun to bring him back in. He was great. So I'll get out of the way. We'll see everybody. Live from Drew's house, another edition. Talk to you soon.